What's up, U.S. history students? Continuing on with our look at the Vietnam conflict. Again, I'm in Schoology here, but a very different conflict than the ones we've looked at with World War II, World War I, for a number of reasons, which we're going to start to look at right here. So, first of all, not that combat in other wars wasn't discouraging, because combat in general can take a toll mentally, physically, right? All of the above on soldiers. But especially in Vietnam, there is a big mental side to combat and just being in Vietnam. So I put up there, what was combat like? Well, it's discouraging because many times in the Vietnam War, American soldiers don't know who their enemy is and who their friend is. Right? In World War II or World War I, when you're fighting the Nazis, they're in their uniforms, they're over there. Those are the bad guys, right? It's pretty clear. Here, sometimes Vietnamese would help during the day and then attack a military outpost from the U.S. during the night. There's a group that I didn't put on here, but super significant, called the Viet Cong, which are South Vietnamese militia, basically. And they don't wear uniforms. They blend in with the population. And so for many times, it's hard for U.S. soldiers to decipher friend versus foe, which, again, day after day can take a mental toll on you. And you're also fighting the NVA, or the North Vietnamese Army. So really, again, there's two enemies that we're facing here. It's the North Vietnamese Army, right? The communist, as we see them, expansion in the north. And then this guerrilla civilian army called the Viet Cong in the south, which are the group that's supposed to be on our side, the ones where they're helping. Now, aside from that issue, obviously Vietnam has a monsoon season, right? Very jungle type terrain in a lot of spots, mountainous. And so there's the terrain to deal with, there's the weather to deal with, there's disease, obviously combat on there. Suicide rates are relatively high for this conflict, and what we would maybe call today, terrorism types attacks carried out on American troops. Now, the thing the U.S. has going for it in this conflict is our military technology, right? We have an Air Force, a Navy off the coast. We have napalm now, which you can see in some of these pictures here, is used to burn down huge sections of jungle. Agent Orange, maybe you've heard of, which is something that's in the news quite a bit still because it causes cancer, and we would spray it over the jungle. It's basically Roundup on steroids, for a lack of a better comparison, and then send our troops to that area once we killed all the foliage, so it was easier to walk through an area and find an enemy. And then again, that napalm is like a sticky gel type substance made of some type of petroleum, and then it's lit on fire, right? And it sticks to things and burns everything. So those kind of things, coupled with our Air Force and our Navy, there is no doubt that we have a technological superiority. And when we're able to use our Air Force and our airstrikes, I mean, it's dominant on the battlefield in Vietnam. The problem is, we don't know where the enemy is half the time. We don't even know who the enemy is half the time. So to be able to call in these airstrikes are few and far between, and usually when the enemy is really close already to U.S. forces, which presents a whole nother problem. Now, from the Vietnamese perspective, what do they use? And we've talked about this before in other conflicts, right? They're going to fight in what we would call an unconventional guerrilla warfare style combat, right? It's unpredictable. It's unconventional. It's deceitful. They're never going to let themselves be drawn into some massive battle with U.S. forces. It's kind of hit and run, right? There's a good quote down here from a North Vietnamese general. We'll talk about the picture in a second, right? The enemy, which would be the U.S. forces, advances, we retreat. The enemy camps for the night, we harass them or we attack them. The enemy tires, we attack. The enemy retreats, we pursue, right? And so it kind of deprives the U.S. of these advantages that we have, and it never really lets soldiers from an American side let their guard down, right? And you can see, I mean, they have a huge network of tunnels. It's even hard to see because the opening's so little here. And I'll link some videos to this in this video or the next one that kind of show those Viet Cong tunnels. But they can show up anywhere, right? And disappear anywhere and leave. And that's very frustrating, right? We're never able to kind of get them in a huge battle where we can just win and the war's over. And it's not that kind of a battle. So they're going to use those guerrilla style tactics.